What's up, everybody? Welcome to Midnight Hatter Live, the weekly variety show where we talk about Gundam, Gunpla, gaming of the tabletop and video variety, and all sorts of other stuff. I am your host, of course, the sick Stephen Bayless, and joining me, as always, is my co-conspirator, Adam Blue. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Yeah, sorry that you're a little in the weather. I know for me there's a little bit of that, but I wonder if this
Just a
is that
tickle.
seasonal change where allergies then come in and sometimes push people over into the colds.
Oh,
So
yeah, and I don't know about you guys down south, but over here we've had a lot of that whiplash weather where it's 77 degrees one day, and
yeah,
then the next it's 40, and it's just...
dude, in
Um,
Dallas here it's been like that where it'll be the 40s and then 80s and it is a lot of as soon as that happens where it's that window of nice weather, we'll go outside and just walk
yep.
around the neighborhood until all of a sudden, last night, it started getting really cold at night, and it's like, okay, let's go back in.
Oh,
So,
geez.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, you gotta take advantage of it when you can. Get your vitamin
Mhm.
D.
Yeah, exactly. Important stuff there.
But yeah, so hopefully my voice will last throughout the stream. If not, I'll be leaning on Adam pretty heavily. But I see we've got plenty of people in chat here already. Dan, some guy Gundam Explained, Ultronimus Rogue New Type Shirt Lad, Zeonic Shadow. Hope you guys are all having a good hump day as well. So today's topic, and I think, this is one of those rare occasions when we've only got like one thing that we're going to talk about kind of at length. It came up yesterday on the supporters only stream. Links to support the channel down below if you guys are not already. We do weekly streams on Tuesday, usually like Gunpla builds, dioramas, things like that. So yesterday, this came up because I pointed out the fact that the high grade Universal Century, the O kit, is like one of the only Zeta kits that has not gotten a revive. Now, I didn't know this until actually doing the research for today's stream, is that the Revive and the Gundam Evolution Project are the same line. So they just renamed it.
Oh,
What happened was the Revive line was created to celebrate the 35th anniversary of Gunpla. And as they started making new kits, they had the Granddaddy Gundam, they had the Zaku 2, they had the Gun Cannon Kubile. They started getting closer to the 40th anniversary, and so they
oh, yeah.
renamed the Revive to the Gundam Evolution Project. And
Okay.
that was when they made that Gundam Evolution Zeta, the high grade Zeta kit. Excuse me, the high grade Zeta kit. And that was the last one that they made, like back in 2017. So,
Huh. The last evolution kit?
yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay. So, Revive Evolution, there hasn't been anything since 2017?
not that I can find.
Wow. Yeah.
You guys can fact check me, see if you can find anything on it. It might be one of those dead lines. I expressed how curious I am to see how long the SD Master Grade line is going to last when that kicks off with the with it's the Strike Gundam, right?
Yeah. And then there was the Master Grade EX strike or Freedom. I'm still learning those, which I thought that was a first, but then I read that there was previous ones. I think there was a Unicorn that
Hmm.
was the Extreme, and then maybe an Exia. I don't know, but
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're always kind of dropping these
one
new
offs.
sublines.
Yeah, sublines. Way to
That
put it.
and I guess that's what I'm going to call them, because we're all familiar with the big lines like HG, FG, RG, MG, PG, and we're going to go through a little bit of that today as well. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and switch over to share my screen, because here we've got the Gunplapedia, the Gunpla wiki, which I have to say I'm a little disappointed, because if we go to all of the various lines that they cover, they really only cover 17 of the various lines, which is not quite as extensive as, in fact, the Gunpla entry on the Gundam Wikipedia, which obviously covers the history of Gunpla, high grades, high grade Universal Century, real grades. It also even goes into like the first grades and entry grades.
Wow.
Um, so I always thought that FG stood for fair grade, like,
Mm,
but
that's fair enough.
yeah,
But no, it's first.
yeah,
Interesting.
it's fail grade, I guess, because those are those are some of like those kind of wonky kits that you find online sometimes.
Well, is first grade, and we might get into this later, but is that supposed to represent anything before they started labeling them pretty much?
I believe so. It's gonna be your 1 to 1/44 scale. So yeah, the
1980.
original first
Yeah.
grade line was part of the 20th anniversary Big Bang project of 1999 as a modern remake
Ah,
of the original 1980 1 to 1/44 scale
I
kits.
see.
They were molded in one color, no polycaps, but they were snap fit.
Hmm. Yeah, wow. Interesting.
Yeah,
So non-grade must be really what is the originals that then I guess, yeah, that first grade is supposed to take some of the non-grades and I guess
yeah, kind of bring them up to snuff, right? Um,
hmm. Do
but
you have any, non-grades? I think I have what is considered that is that Shining Gundam that Goose sent me. I believe that is considered that.
Yeah, yeah, I think, I have basically all of the Gundam Wing non-grades from back in
Oh,
the day,
nice.
as and those guys I keep in the garage because I haven't touched them since I was, like, 13 years old, and they are just
Wow.
disgusting looking. I
Oh,
would be embarrassed, and that says a lot because you guys know how terrible I am when it comes to building and painting Gunpla. We're talking, like, a Wing Zero that I painted with a Sharpie, like,
no.
you don't
Hey, you
wanna
gotta
see this
start
stuff.
somewhere, you
Yeah.
know? You know,
Um,
another actually, when I was first building back in 2018, I think it was 2019. Well, no, yeah, 2019, I was first building. I 2 kits I ordered because I liked F91 a lot, and I got them, and I was like, "This is horrible." They were like the bad guys from F91, and it was
yeah.
because it was kits released in '91, and, it was that they were scaled. I think they were supposed to be scaled maybe to master grade, but at that time, that wasn't a thing, and it was just
Right.
yeah.
Right, well, so and even
No,
when the high grade line was initially released, the high grades were 1 to 100 scale.
oh, okay, so that explains that, okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't until much later that the high grades became 1 to 1/44 scale, master grade became, 1/100th, and then you have, like, the RE 100 line, which basically would be the high grade 1 to 100 scale. But you brought up a good point, is, you only started building Gunpla a couple years ago. Today's topic is actually very, uh topical because you dropped a video this morning
Oh,
reviewing a high grade gunpla yourself.
yeah, and the 2012 high grade, so this is before the the revives or whatever, but it was at a time, and I said it in my video, where 2012 kits around that time, I don't know when that engineering started, but are really well done. I think there's kits from
Yeah.
Advance of Zeta I have that are in that time frame too, and they're really well done.
Yeah, I think that that is really where the designs started to get a little bit more refined, a little bit better posability, that kind of thing. Um, and so, yeah, if you guys haven't checked out that video, don't watch it now, watch it later, watch it
Yeah,
after
of
this.
course.
This first, stay here, then
Yeah, don't leave.
no. But links down in the description below to check that out over on Gundam Explained. Um, so yeah, I see here shirt lads talking about the beam toothpicks. Of
No,
course, that is beam effect parts are certainly a much more modern um oh,
here's
you've
a,
got
from the G Savior, and it's transparent, translucent, but it's all
okay,
one piece. So I would still have to paint, but it's interesting how whereas the GM that I built recently, that was one piece, but it was a solid white.
right. And I think a lot of those earlier kits kind of have the molded hand that's holding the beam saber
Oh,
and they're all cast in one color. Um
there's some
yeah.
charm to that, even though it's not preferred.
Yeah, yeah, it's But, you know, you can do some cool stuff with that. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, if you were to cast that in silicone and then, you know, use that mold to make a clear effect part, you know, I
Yep.
think that the one thing I will say about the way that that hand is holding the beam saber is that it's a little more natural feeling than when you just kind of stick a weapon in a Gunpla's hand kind of straight up and down, especially if they don't have wrist articulation. You know, nobody swings a sword like this. Like,
Yeah, that's what's interesting. Some kits, and I don't know if this again goes into the kit type, where they will have a hand that's made more for holding a beam saber, like it'll have the thumb up, or
yep,
sometimes they'll have the hands where the ball joint is at an angle, so
I've
that
seen
you're
that
getting a
too.
little more movement or dynamicism out of it. But I don't know what dictates that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very it's largely a kit by kit basis kind of thing because you see some similarities between generations, but then there's just some standout kits that don't seem to fit in at all with
Yep.
their current generation. One that I always bring up is the high grade Zaku 2 Kai, the one from 0080.
Hmm.
It is one of the only Zaku kits that I've seen prior to the Origin kits that instead of the legs coming together, on either side, they clip together front and back, and what I
Oh,
like about that is it minimizes the appearance of seam lines.
yeah. And and that actually brings up another point too when we're looking at these various kit types and kit by kit what they decide to do. Sometimes the building of the kit itself lends more to you are creating a robot. Where even if it's
True.
not a real grade, sometimes there might be a bit of an inner frame you're building and then you're placing components. Sometimes maybe if you have a completely symmetrical piece, it's actually two pieces that are not symmetrical and it doesn't feel like you're actually putting together a robot. And so, a good example, I'm building the high grade aerial, and it has some pretty neat elements to it that makes it feel like I'm building a robot because it has these inner frames, and then I'm putting stuff around it. But the chest piece is actually this whole abdomen chest piece is two asymmetrical pieces you put together, and that took me out for a second, even though I'm just building something anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, there's something to that. Like
Yep.
there's an engineering component that goes into it, and I think that that really became popularized not only by the master grade kits, but like the high grade IBO kits. They almost
Cool.
feel like frames that you're just kind of clipping armor onto.
Oh, that's
Uh,
cool.
so
I haven't built one.
yeah, there's definitely an appeal to that because you kind of get to see the innards of the machine that you're building. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I think that obviously, yeah, it looks like if we were to look at the high grade line here, so
Mhm.
after the first grade, the quality of the molding and plastic was improved. High grade level kits were introduced in 1990,
Mm.
offering greater posability. Um, says that they are mostly in 1 to 144th scale, but some older kits are available in 1 to 100th. And
Okay.
I think that's probably true. I think that I mean, obviously, most of what I have are high grade kits. I have a couple of real grades. I have plenty of no grades. And I mean, just the variation of the high grade line from 1990 until now, I mean, that is 30 some odd years. So
Yeah.
you would expect there to be some changes. And that's where those sort of sublines come in, where it's like, I think around 1999 they started you know, re-releasing some previous kits with some of the newer um you know, posability, some of the newer plastics and things like that. And so it's kind of disappointing to me because you know, when the Revive line came out, I was hoping we would see like a lot of these older kits that had not seen any love come back out, but really they kind of died off with the Zeta.
At GM, and we talked about this before, the GM would have been an obvious revive.
Yeah,
And
I mean, you've already got well, I know there's Char Zaku.
yeah,
There's a regular Zaku revive, right?
Oh, you know what? I don't know because I'm always seeing Sharzaku as
That's
the
the one, right?
yeah, huh. Yeah, that's a good question. I'll have to
But yeah, I think that after 20 2010, 2012, you started seeing more new series come out, and so, they've been kind of preoccupied making things like Witch from Mercury, IBO, um,
yeah.
yeah, and so here as a sub-entry below high grade, you've got high grade Universal Century, which I think the majority of yours and my kits would be.
Yeah. In fact, when I first got into model building, that's what really helped me understand what I wanted to get because, I first my first kit, and I'll get more into real grade later when we get there, but was the real grade unicorn.
Yeah,
After that, when I wasn't sure what to get because I was new to Gundam, I realized HGUC was what I needed to look for on the box, and it had what I was into. So I think that's kind
exactly.
of smart on Bandai or whatever. Like after time, they really try to figure out ways to categorize these things. Yeah, I think there's a difference of categorizing based on property and categorizing based on what the build is.
Right, right, because you've got, like, HGAC
Mhm.
for your
After
wing
calling.
kits, you've got HGBF for your build fighters kits and
Mm,
so
yeah.
on. Um, yeah, so it says here, "New designs, new mechanical improvements continue to be introduced to the series even today." Um, the Gundam Seed line are built to the same quality of the early HGUC models. I'm sure that there are some Seed fans in the chat that will, disagree with that. Um, Starting in 2010, the HGUC line incorporated mobile suits from alternate timelines. So that's where your MSVs come from,
Ah,
um,
okay.
things like that. Uh, and then in 2013, Bandai launched the All Gundam project in conjunction with the release of Gundam Build Fighters.
Hmm. Universal joint technology. And I guess with a lot of those build fighters, those are and and I don't know this for sure, although I have a couple of the newer build ones, but they're like interchangeable with their parts
Yeah,
in
yeah,
general.
to a
Yeah.
large degree they are. Well, I mean, one of the kits that I feel that I'm really sad that I missed out on when it was affordable is the Zaku F2000, the Super Zaku.
Oh, that sounds
Um,
badass.
oh yeah. Well, and so I've always, I don't know if this is true or not, but like I think that you probably have the parts in the box to make just basically a purple Zaku F2 because supposedly at its core, it is just a Zaku F2 model that's been customized. Um,
Oh.
and the Zaku 2 F2 is probably one of the best high grade Zaku kits on the market. I like it better
Hmm.
than the Revive Char Zaku, personally.
I you know what? I don't have that, but I do have the, Robot Spirits, versions, and, yeah, sometimes I'm like, "I need to go get the kits."
Now, the Robot Spirits one, how many sort of like gimmicks and accessories does that one come with?
Usually more than the, Gunpla. That's the thing, and that's what always got me into Robot
Yeah,
Spirits is the effect parts, extra weapons, um, and a lot of times then I would buy like, I have a real grade Zaku too because I wanted to build a real grade again. Otherwise, I have a lot of Robot Spirits Zaku's, the army build.
yeah,
No, I'm looking
absolutely.
up this, Super Zaku, dude. I love it,
Oh yeah,
and there's one on Amazon for 160. I don't know if I would do that, but
yeah, not for a
man,
high grade.
and it has extra arms on its
Yeah.
back. That is sick. I
Oh,
love it.
like if anyone from Bandai is watching this stream, please re-release the Zaku F2000. That is one of the
Yeah.
greatest. I would take it as a P Bandai, honestly. I'd probably drop 60, $70 on it, but
Yeah, I would too. There's so much to it, though,
oh
really.
yeah.
Like, I think that's worth it. Wow.
And that's just like one example of a high grade that has kind of increased in value over time. I mean, there are a lot of kits that I feel like I kind of missed out on similarly, like the UC 88 version of the Zeta Gundam, which it's like, was there really a difference between the Zeta in Zeta and the Zeta in Double Zeta? Apparently there was. There was enough for it to get a whole high grade made out of it.
Oh, and that's one that's not easy to get anymore?
Yeah, that one's probably like $80 or $90,
Ah.
secondhand now as well. So,
That reminded me I did pay either 60 or 70 for the Totus Ritter, so there's times where we will do that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always say, like, there's no such thing as scalpers because something is whatever someone is
Yeah,
willing to
people
pay
willing to
for it.
pay. Here's something funny. My son saved up his money. He saved up $80 so he could buy a Five Nights at Freddy's plush that they don't make anymore, but they're on eBay, and I was helping him like, "Look, and that's how much they go for, and people buy them."
Phew.
And that seems crazy, but I was like, "Man, this is just like me, though."
Yeah.
So it's like I can't fault him.
Oh, the world we live in.
Yeah, I know.
Um, but yeah, moving on down the line here, obviously Real Grade is the next of the 1 to 144th scale hits, which borrows a lot of its design inspirations from, it's basically supposed to be like a miniaturized perfect grade. Um,
Ah,
s-
because yeah, and I brought this up before, but the first Gundam kit I built that I was aware of, because I found out I built an IBO kit before, I didn't know. But the first Gundam kit I was aware of was the real grade unicorn, full armor. I built it. I was like, this is the most badass thing I have done. And then I went and bought a high grade, and I was like, oh,
well,
and
why
not
did this one
realizing,
take like 10 hours and this one's done in like
yeah.
3?
And then even the master grade I got, it was the ARC 78-2 Origin master grade. It was cool, but it wasn't to the level of surgery I thought I was doing by having a real grade.
Yeah.
And here's a real grade Mark II, which I think is one of my favorite Gunpla there is. Like,
Yeah.
this thing never falls apart, and it's like an action figure, but it goes to
Insanely
what I was saying before.
posable.
Yeah, and it goes to what I was saying before, how when you're building it, it's like you're building a robot,
Yeah.
and I love that aspect of it. You get an idea of the design, even if they just take some liberties, slight liberties, you get an overall feeling of the design with a real grade. I think, building a real grade is a different experience than a typical Gunpla.
Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that, and I honestly think that there's a difference in the quality of plastic too, because
Mhm.
even the master grades that I've built, and I've only built about like 6 or 7 master grades, but like the quality of plastic on the real grade kits seems to be a little bit higher than what I've
Yeah.
seen in master grade kits. And maybe it just has to be more dense and brittle because you're working at such a small scale, but yeah. I mean, shoot, even some of, like, the gimmicks, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you put together the Real Grade Mark II, don't you have to, like, thread a little fabric, pipe on the back of the knee
Yeah.
joints?
Yeah, the back of the leg there, they have the fabric just like the master grade, which we'll
Yep.
get into in a second, but I do have that right here too. So they it's like they're the same in some ways, but at the end of the day, this was a much more of a process to build and to detail than the
Yeah.
master grade. Yeah.
Yeah, and the color separation, I think, is better
Yeah,
in a lot of ways. You get a
that
lot of
is a
the,
good
like,
point too.
two-tone grays and things.
Yep. Yeah,
Very
like,
good.
on the calf here, there's yeah, that it's hard to see, I guess, with the brightness, but yeah, the different tones of grays, you're right, like, I love that idea, that really adds a lot more. It's things that people would be that's interesting because it's things that people would be doing to their high grades anyway.
Right.
Painting some areas, scribing, some areas to give that more detail, and not only did Bandai then release these kits like this, but if you notice, all the real grades are like the high-end mobile suits everyone likes.
Yeah.
Like, it's a Freedom, it's a Wing, it's a Tall Goose, it's, surprised that Mark II, 'cause, they have a Zaku 2, they don't have a GM, a real grade GM. Oh my god, that would be excellent.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting to me because the real grade line to me has sort of degraded into this sort of generic catch-all because like now you're starting to get, properties that aren't even Gundam that are in the real grade
Oh, that's
line.
right.
You're
Yeah, I
getting
didn't consider that.
Evangelion, I think
Yeah,
there's a Gaio Gaigar
yeah,
um real grade, and it's like, Gundam fans are sitting over here like, "Hey, why'd you stop making real grades of, like, the
yeah,
stuff we like?"
when you could
Um,
redo the Zeta properly.
yeah, take another crack at it. Just slow down this time. Um, but yeah. The real grade line is definitely an interesting one. I love I mean, I love the kits that I've built. I only have, the Zaku 2, the Zeta, and the Mark 2, but
Mhm.
all of them have been good,
Yeah.
except, of course, the Zeta, but,
Yeah.
I think that it's very telling that they haven't tried to make another transforming unit like that. The Gaio Gaigar obviously transforms a little bit, but it's more of like a Voltron style.
Oh, connecting
Yeah.
the parts. I see.
Um, but, yeah, master grades,
Yeah,
these
masquerade.
are, obviously the big daddies. A lot of model builders basically only build master grades, and I think that that's because they're a little easier to paint and to customize when you're working at a larger scale like that. Um,
Yeah, I've noticed that recently between my master grade Hazel that I've built and recently doing the high grade, it was so much easier to
yeah,
detail the master grade. The thing is, I like to have things together in scale, and there's just less kits that are master grades than there are that are high grades that I want to have together. Like I want a whole line of the Blue Destinies and the Pale Riders. I'm only going to do that with high grades,
yeah,
but it's so much harder to detail. Working on the high grades I've been this week painting and stuff,
yeah.
so much harder to detail.
Well, and
But
you and I are both big, like, collectors, like, we
yeah,
like to have
sure.
complete sets.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
I think that the master grades are like how I would treat, Funko Pops, where it's like, you don't wanna collect a whole set of Funko Pops of ones that you don't care about. You wanna get the
Yeah.
one that you like.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Because I have the Master Grade Hazel. I have the Master Grade Origin. I have the Master Grade Alex. I have the Master Grade F91 and Verka Victory.
See, and the Alex is a perfect example of it. This is how you know they're not made to be collectible, is because you have a master grade Alex, but the only 1/100 scale Zaku Kai that it can fight up against is a Reborn 100 or RE
Oh,
100.
I've got that here too. And is the camp for a reborn or is that a master grade? I have the
I
but the
think
thing is this RE100 is awesome.
it
Like
is.
it's really dusty. I'm surprised how awesome it is, but like when you hold it, it does feel a little cheaper.
Yeah.
I think the plastic is different.
Yeah, it's a little lighter. The build is a little bit more like a high grade.
Yeah. And I even built the Vignagina because the F91 was a master grade. The Vignagina was the RE, and the Vignagina was fun to build and was cool, but you could tell with the parts that it was a little cheaper.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think they're pulling one over us when they're trying to differentiate what the lines are. I mean, there really are differences.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, now my desk is full of Gunpla.
Right. Yeah, I didn't even want to start reaching for stuff because I'm like, man, I'm gonna make a mess over here. Um, but yeah, so I mean, those are your 1/100 scale kits, and you know, even within those, I don't think there weren't any sublines associated with the Master Grade and Reborn 100s. You do have the version 2.0s of the Master Grades that have
Oh
come
yeah.
out. So like there is an original Master Grade Zeta and then a version 2.0. Um, and
I
that
have
goes for
the um and it's in the background, but I have the RX-8 RX-78 2 and the Zaku 2 2.0 or Char Zaku 2 2.0, which are excellent
yeah,
master grades. Like it's almost like they are just perfect. I I didn't even bother putting decals on my RX-78 2 because it looked just like it came out of the anime.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and
but
those are kind of like you'll notice that I think between the different scales is that sometimes the larger scale models tend to be a little bit more anime accurate. The high grade models tend to be a little leaner.
yeah,
Um, yeah, because I think like if you were to look at like even some of the perfect grades, they have a little bit more of that animation chonk to them.
ah,
Uh,
well, that's going to be interesting because I'm building the high grade aerial. And I have the Robot Spirits aerial, and they already look different. So when I do my review of it, I'm actually gonna do a comparison because it's interesting how different they are
yeah,
and what would
yeah,
be
I
more
can't
anime
wait to
accurate.
see that
Yeah.
because the proportions of the aerial in the show look nothing like the kit, and
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
which is strange to me given that, like, modern animation techniques, they're using CGI models, to
Yeah.
create the animation anyway, so I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder in maybe we don't know this or maybe it's in Japanese somewhere, but, like, how much artistic liberty do the designers have when they're designing it? Like, as they're going through, like, "Well, I would prefer the eyes to be maybe a little narrow."
Yeah.
Like, something just little like that. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and I'm glad you brought that up because obviously, excuse me, one of the sublines of the master grades is the master grade Verkaz.
Yeah, which I've got one. Let me grab that. Um, oh, you know what? And that reminded me, I'm gonna grab something else that goes with it. So that's another thing we were talking about. We want things to go together.
Yeah, exactly.
So here is the Master Grade Verka Victory 2. This was one of the first ones that I decaled and top coated. I can tell the top coat I did a bad job, but I mean it's not that noticeable.
I think it
This
looks
is an
great.
excellent looking kit. It falls apart like crazy, so I'm gonna try not to mess with it. This was not fun to build at all. It just
See,
looks
and that's
cool.
what happens when you hand the design to Hajime Katoki and you
Yeah,
say,
who makes it so
just
elaborate
go
where
for it.
yeah, it's almost like when you're building, and I don't know if this is the case with them all, but when you're building a Verka, maybe it's you're building it based on the artistic design choices, not necessarily that you're building a robot. But
That's a good way of looking at it.
they came out with the RE100 of the Gun Easy, I believe this is called.
Mhm.
And this is a great kit. I mean, it almost looks like it's the size of a high grade, but this is when they got a little smaller
Right.
in universe. But this is a great kit where I almost feel like this was a more fun and better build than the Verka Victory too. So
See, that's interesting.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that there probably is a little bit of, you know, liberty given and taken, from
Mhm.
the designers when it comes to, A, what scale they're working at, B, what line they're working on. Um, Obviously, UC suits get a little bit more of a glow up when it comes to like panel lining and detailing and stuff like that. Uh, you know, really the cheapest of the high grades is probably the most anime accurate, ironically enough.
Oh,
Um, because once you start getting into like perfect grades and stuff, the level of detail that's put into those, they stop looking like the cheesy 79 cartoon.
good point. Good point. That's an interesting conundrum because if Bandai is wanting to release an anime accurate kit, it might not be as fully featured for someone that wants to do their model building. Whereas then they started coming out with the Robot Spirits Veranime line, where
Yep,
there's these action figures that are very slimmed down, but they're very accurate. Um, so that was probably their trade-off there. Action figures could probably be better for that Veranime.
I think so
So,
too. And you tend to get a little bit more articulation out of different materials.
mhm.
I think you and I have talked about like the Zegok, for instance, which is one of those kind of
Oh yeah.
awkward mobile suits that in anime it doesn't work in real life. Like, you can't have like these tube like arms that kind of are like noodly. Um,
Yeah.
but if you use the right kind of polymers, the right kind of plastics, you can approximate that kind of articulation in an action figure. But it doesn't make for the best model kit because you can't really like nip that off of sprues.
Yeah, no, that is very interesting. And too, a lot of it is the designs, especially the original 0079, where they were able to kind of go crazy with the bad guy designs, not in terms of, oh, this will be a model kit.
Yeah,
Just let's make some crazy bad guys, but then it was like, oh, we need model kits of them. And it's I think only recently that they've been able to really, just because of technology and advancements, really being able to have a model kit of these crazier suits,
yeah,
whether it's a high gog, Zagok, at guy that like really now work uh
yeah,
compared to
exactly. I
them.
mean, I
Yeah.
think that to quote Tony Stark's dad, right? I'm limited by the technology of my time,
Mm.
but you will be able to
Yep.
create these model kits in the future, using your arc reactor or what have you. Your 3D printer in this case.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There you go.
Um, so yeah, now we get to the creme de la creme, the perfect grades, right?
Mm.
1/60th scale model kits. Do you have any perfect grades in your collection yet?
I do not, and when I first started building, one of the things was getting a perfect grade RX 78 too, and I remember getting into Gunpla, I'm like, "Man, if my wife knew how much I'm spending on things," but, she supports me, and I remember we were at a hobby town, this was back in 2019, and we saw a perfect grade RX 78 too, the one before the new one, it
Yeah,
was 160. She was like, "You might as well get it." And I was like, "I don't know if I should spend that much." And I never got it, and now you can't find it. And if you
right.
want one, you have to get the new one that's like $300. So it's like, "Oh my gosh."
So, funny story, I actually have that older perfect grade RX 78 too. My little
Mhm.
brother was putting it together for me. This
Oh,
is like after I'd moved out and gone to college, and apparently he broke a part. Um, and now it just kind of sits incomplete. So I probably need to revisit that and find out
yeah.
if that's something that I can repair, or
Yeah.
if I can like 3D print a component to fix that. Um, and
Dude,
then
that would be a great video.
oh yeah, like can we save it?
Yeah,
Um,
how to fix a broken perfect grade. Like,
oh
I anyone would look that up. I see
yeah,
on Reddit sometimes people are like, "How do I fix this?" And it's a broken peg or something. Sometimes it's like, there's so many ways, and it used to be where you could buy parts from that dude that used to
yeah,
have the site. I bought some thrusters from him before it went down, and now I think it's down.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I
but
mean, understandably, it's a very unsustainable like
yeah,
business because it's like you know how many people are going to break a large plate of armor versus a V-fin? So you're gonna
yeah,
run out of V-fins, and then you're just gonna have a bunch of incomplete kits sitting around, and like, yeah, I mean, it's just not. Well, unless he were to like price them accordingly, like like I would probably price
yeah.
V-fins at like 15-20 dollars a pop, and then like you know if you broke this part, the ass plate of your VO kit, yeah, you could probably get that for a few cents because, not a lot of people are going to be doing that.
Yeah.
Supply
Yeah,
and
no,
demand,
that's
whatever the
but yeah, I wonder with 3D printing, how much that's gonna take care of that, and how long until the adoption's wide enough where it's just general, like,
I
what
hope so.
generation is grandpa gonna 3D print a part real quick, you
Yeah.
know?
I I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
to be able to do that for my kids.
Yep.
Um But yeah, I have not touched my perfect grade Zeta yet because I'm
Oh.
not gonna mess with that until I am confident that I will not absolutely screw it up. And
You
if
know
you
what?
guys have seen these other streams that I've done, you know that I'm prone to doing so.
Dude, but you do really well. In fact, I was stuck in that hole for a while because I had these kits sitting here that I was like, but then I went all out. I'm about to finish this uh D2 Pale Rider, and it's probably hard to see, but there's
There we
so many
go.
spots on this that I have uh detailed on my own, like the thrusters putting the red and the silver in there.
That's
I say
awesome.
you do it, man. You need to get working that perfect grade, regardless of your fear.
Right. It's like 40-year-old virgin. Take it out of the box and play with it. Um
But I get it. I get it though.
Yeah,
That's tough.
especially with and now that I'm kind of getting back into airbrushing, I'll be a little bit more confident approaching
Mm,
that kit if I decide to kind of airbrush it.
yeah,
Having cut my teeth on some high grades first.
yeah.
But yeah, so there's also obviously some other sub branches of Gunpla. You've got your
Mm.
SDs, which
Oh,
we haven't touched on those yet, but the super deformed scale. Um, there's even sub series of those too, because you have like the cross silhouettes, which are not quite SD. They're kind of
yeah.
like just DK mode. If you guys are familiar with the old GoldenEye, like
Oh,
just
yeah,
big
the
head,
big
long arms.
yeah, yeah,
um,
that's right, DK mode.
but yeah,
Yeah.
and so I mean now you've got an SDMG, so
Yeah,
that has a very specific, I would say, a target demographic, right? Because like your average Gunpla fan is not buying SDs, right?
Yeah, what is the demographic? Like, I feel like is SD more of a, Asian thing, if that's correct to say? It's just more of a popular thing over there in the United States. I just even Target carrying model kits, it's never SDs.
No,
If they're gonna market it, they would market it there, but I think they just it's just not a thing here, I think, is popular.
I agree. I think that Western audiences, they just don't quite understand it, and
Yeah.
myself included. It's they're cute. I
Yeah.
obviously I've got some SDs in my collection, but it's definitely
Yeah, that's
not.
more for fun and curiosity, especially if it's a suit you really like and you kinda wanna see
Yeah,
what you could do with it and edit it around, but a lot of times if I'm wanting something cute, it's me getting the Haro or when I bought the,
right.
Soletta, model kit. That's, like, more of it's more of like Grogu, Disney.
Yeah,
That's
or even a
if I
bear
want a
guy.
robot, I don't want it cute. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um. Oh, I think I forgot a couple of HG sublines while we were talking. Um,
Let's
because
see.
because one of the things that I guess I left out were like the Gundam-based limiteds, right? Um,
Oh,
which,
yeah.
do you count that as a subline?
I would say I don't know. It's almost I have the,
Yeah, the
yeah,
Mark
Mark
II
II. Can't
in
wait to build this. But that's a good
those are
question.
great
Is that a
colors.
subline? It's almost like, yes, because if it's the only way you can get a suit in that way, like, sometimes they do the clear color or the
Yep.
some other, uh, coating on it, sometimes. And they're not sold other ways. That could be
Yeah,
because it could be that someone collects Gundam base exclusive
right.
Gunpla. Yeah.
Like, I have the Gundam Front Tokyo RX-78, which I have to say is probably one of my favorite molds of the RX-78. Like, it kind of resembles the Origin, RX-78 in its proportions and the panel lines. Um,
What
I
is it called again?
The Gundam Front Tokyo, the GFT, RX-78.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look that up.
It comes with a few, like, real type stickers. I didn't put the stickers on
Ooh,
because,
I like that.
um, yeah, it's not really my speed.
Oh, I see it. That's pretty neat looking. Yeah, it does kind of have its own unique little mold to it.
Yeah,
Huh. I do like that.
so that's a
And yeah,
neat one.
speaking of the real type, because I love the real type markings. That's like
Oh,
one
yeah.
thing I like. But one, not everyone does. Two, it's interesting what kits come with that or not.
Right, where's the
Yeah.
decision made about which kits get real type markings?
And
Um,
I kept seeing the aerial built with real type markings made for the aerial, and I'm like, "Oh, it comes with real type markings," but when I got the kit, it didn't.
yep.
But, do I have it here? It's buried somewhere. I found online that they were selling real type markings made exclusively for the Witch for Mercury universe, so the details
Gotcha.
are more based on that, and I thought that's interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, that is an interesting
Yeah, because
gimmick.
it's the and I guess it depends sometimes. Like, for instance, the Moon Gundam, an excellent HG kit that if you didn't know could be a real grade, but it doesn't come
Yeah,
with real type markings. It doesn't need them, but sometimes
true.
that looks cool. And I think there's something about the RX-78 too having something to do with Earth Federation or White Base on the shoulder,
Yeah,
or a ground Gundam that has a number. There's different levels to where real time markings can be interesting, but I like how what you brought up, like what dictates the extra decals that something has or not.
yeah.
I,
I
I don't
mean,
know.
for instance, why would, so I have the regular version of the,
Flight type.
flight type goof.
Yeah.
Uh, why did this one get a, 21st century real type, upgrade, right? Like, why did we
Yeah.
need a real type marking version of the flight type goof, but not, you know, a regular Zaku?
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Very interesting and inconsistent. And again, maybe that could be as designers are designing these kits, they kind of get a little bit of freedom. But I wonder if that's also to kind of show off different ways people to then customize other kits.
Right.
So they're buying additional versions to customize. I don't know.
all very confusing.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've got our EX models, which are your tanks and fighters, ships, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
I actually have a couple of these. I have the Argama and Albion 1 to 1/1700 scale um, you know, ships.
I eye those all the time, but are they worth it?
I mean, they're kind of neat to have,
Yeah,
just on
on display,
display. But
but they seem pretty pricey for what you get.
yeah, you're really not getting,
Yeah.
I think that the 1 to 1/1700 scale, Dendrobium Orcus is awesome. Comes
Oh,
with, like,
okay.
a lot of interchangeable arms and, like, gimmicks. It definitely needs to be painted, because it's basically cast all in one color,
Oh,
but, like, the, Argama and the Albion, not a lot going on there. Um,
hmm.
at
Yeah,
least
I
the
noticed that too.
the Argama does have a rotating, like, the
Oh, the little thingy,
yeah,
whatever
it's
that
it
is.
has part
Yeah,
swaps so that you can, extend out the thrusters, and then it has a rotating core. So there's
I see.
that, but,
Hmm. Yeah, very interesting with that. I feel like that's where they're missing out, and maybe it's just there's not a market for it, but having more ships. I would think someone
yeah,
that walks into a model shop that doesn't care about mechs, but like ships, maybe if they saw some Gundam ships, like, I mean, think if you could get, like, how big would be a 1/44th scale, um, Salamis class cruise? Like, it would be big, but not like,
not
well, that
any
would be
bigger
big.
than a Neo Zeong.
Yeah, that would actually be pretty big. Thinking about where they would be standing. Yeah, it would have to be smaller, but having stuff like that,
Yeah,
I think would be, like, bigger, at least bigger than what those 117,000 are, I think would be a lot more interesting to people outside Gundam.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, they do make ships obviously from the Star Wars universe. They've got like,
Yeah, that's
you
right.
know, Millennium
Oh, the
Falcon and
72, scale or something like that? I forget exactly.
oh, I forget what scale are they?
I don't know, is it 172? I don't know if anyone knows. Wait, no, it wouldn't be that, it would be, no, maybe it is the 144th scale, yeah, because I have an ATST, an X-Wing, a Y-Wing, and I think they're all that's 144th
They
scale, so
kind
yeah,
of
that
fit
would
in line
match
with your
the,
high grades.
yeah. I didn't think about having my X-Wing and RX-78 2 hanging out. I'll
I
have to
was
find out.
actually surprised. I have a 1/100th scale, the Kotobukiya, Metal Gear Rex, and
Oh,
surprisingly, it's kinda small compared to a high grade Gundam kit. So I'm like,
oh,
"Man, Metal Gear Rex would get his ass kicked by a
oh, I
Gundam."
see what you're saying, it's just a small thing in general, even though you're seeing it in the game,
Yeah.
uh, compared to a Gundam, okay.
So, now the hard graph, line of Gunpla, have you yeah, I don't have any of these, but I see them all the time on Amazon. They're these, like, 1/35th scale. It's a lot of, like, ground combat units. I
Huh.
think there's a Ramba
Oh,
Rawl set.
yeah. Yeah, that's right, I have seen that. Oh, that's
Those are pretty cool, but, again, where do they really fit in the line of
yeah, unless you're gonna have, like, some sort of forced perspective diorama, which could work, but, um, yeah, it would have to be a forced perspective diorama
yeah,
to, yeah,
for
I'm looking at
sure.
that right now. That is cool, but it's funny how they're releasing all that stuff as action figures from Mega House. Like, looking at the Rumble Raw set, it's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, I have all that now," but as action figures.
right.
Um, and I guess I could use that and do the forced perspective. Hmm.
There you go. Um Well, let's see, the, speed grade collection, which I don't know, this doesn't count as, let me grab them.
Speed grade. Okay, yeah, because I can't say I've heard of Speed Grade Collection. In 2007, pre-painted, molded, oh, 200
So
scale.
this is a 1/200 scale, it was the HFS something, um, line of, basically pre-assembled model kits that are pre-painted. Um, they're super detailed, and they even have like, I don't know if I'll be able to pick this up on camera, but like there's even like color
Panel lining.
separation lines and panel lining done to
Yeah.
it. Um,
Huh.
they're really awesome little kits, but
Yeah, I like that.
they really only came out with a few of them. I think a few Zeta kits, a few Char's counterattack. I have the Zeta Gundam, I have the Titans Mark II, and I have the Zazabi.
Oh, yeah, those are good ones to get.
Yeah, but like
Huh.
what appeal is there to them? Probably not a whole lot unless you find a suit that you really like, which is why I
Well,
got those particular three.
again, I think it almost goes to collecting. Like,
Yeah, for
if I was
sure.
able to army build easily, but have different suits that are made to be together in a scene, that's more appealing to go after. If they're one-offs, sometimes it's hard,
Yeah,
the
it's hard to justify that for
yeah.
sure. Um,
Hmm.
Now, of course, we have the mega size models, which are interesting because they're 1/48th scale. They are massive. They look like they're about the size of a toddler. But I don't have any of these, and I don't think you do either.
No. But
Um,
I've looked them up, and they don't seem to be that much more expensive than getting that new Perfect Grade Unleashed is what it's called.
no, a
Um,
couple $100.
yeah, it's mainly the shipping that's the issue there, but, like, I've considered it, but it's like, where would I put it? Let's be honest.
Right. Um, well, I'd push one around in my stroller, and
There you go. There you
um,
go. Daughter's friend.
but yeah, no, my buddy Juby has one of the mega size Zaku 2s. Um,
No, that's cool.
I don't know what the articulation and the detail is on them. I assume it's something close to like a master grade because it's not anywhere close to like a real grade or a perfect grade as far as like the panel lining goes and like part separation.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of little concessions made because of the size. Even the
Hmm.
weight distribution of joints, they'd probably have to account for that.
Yeah, and then
Mm,
like how posable is it? Like,
yeah,
is the articulation good or is it kind of just stiff joints? I don't know.
yeah,
And then we also have here the entry grade line, which is a relatively new one as well. Uh, my buddy Tony sent me the entry grade RX-78 too.
cool.
I haven't built it yet, but I mean, I think it's kind of cool that they introduced a line that you don't need nippers or like sanding equipment to put it together.
Yeah, I've built both the RX-78 and the new Gundam. Super easy and fun,
Yeah,
but that's all too it but other than that, I don't think I'd go back. Like,
yeah.
maybe for testing or doing a specific custom, like, I started scribing on my new Gundam to make it look like a real or I think an origin version, but I was having a hard time. Real quick tip, and I think you brought it up in your video that you have. It's like do light lines at first just to kind of get the groove and then start going in harder. I was going in hard at first and it was just moving the thing around and I was like, "Wait a minute.
Right, that's
I
how you
missed."
get like the screek.
Yeah, exactly.
You end up like one of those like that always happens in cartoons when like a woman's putting on lipstick and like
Yeah, and then yeah, it
um
goes across the face, yeah.
oh
Yeah.
man, nothing makes me more upset than when that happens. And then it's like trying to repair that is a nightmare.
But with the entry grade, what's interesting is the purpose of that, I'm assuming, is really just to make an easily accessible kit for anybody. But I think the other way that they can utilize entry grade is to create mass production units that like GM, Zaku 2s, they should just make entry grades of those for people that just want to army build. It's like they knew to
Absolutely.
do that with the is it the Magnac or
The Magonaut core from
Magnock
yeah.
and the what's the one from G Gundam? The
Oh,
guys
the
with the
Dark
eye?
Army?
Yeah. It's like they because I think I had 3 of those and I wasn't even collecting them. I just happened to have them,
Yeah.
when I was but, like, the potential is there. I don't know why they haven't done that with the GM or Zaku too.
You hear us,
Like, why?
Bandai? Do you hear
Yeah.
us?
I
GM.
would hey, I would say that's my number 1 wish out of all Gunpla is being able to get, army build GMs easily of, like, newer, do an entry grade that's a little updated.
Yeah.
Dang, I would
A
buy so many.
GM and a Zaku 2. Boom.
Yeah. Oh, if that was a 2-pack,
Yeah.
and then you just buy, like, 5 2-packs. Oh, man, that would be sick.
Then you got squads.
Oh,
Oh man. And then you could expand on that too and do 2 packs of like gun cannon with Zaku 1.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, actually. That they need to do that. I mean, honestly, if that was the case, I would literally tell my wife I need to reserve space in the garage to have a table set up because I'm gonna build a scene, a diorama of a battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I would do like a, you know how people do those like river tables with like the
Oh,
resin?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen people do like, canyon runs and like
With
the
Star
Death
Wars.
Star run with Star
Yeah,
Wars. I would put some GMs and Zaku's and do a resin table.
yeah, that's a
There
good
you go.
idea.
Um, Now, last but not least, I am going to give an honorable mention to the Ecopla. Um, they are a unique line of Gunpla. They are melted down sprues of recycled Gundam
That is
model
cool.
kits. Surprisingly, there's only a couple of models out there. Um,
Yeah, I think even the box is supposed to be recycled too, like recycled stuff.
yeah, which
Yeah,
I'm surprised that Bandai hasn't instituted some kind of like, send us your sprues program where like maybe you get like a $5 discount and then
yeah,
they crank out more Ecopla.
dude, I
Because
feel bad.
honestly,
Uh,
if they had some decent high grade kits in Ecopla, I would buy them to paint
yeah,
because like
exactly.
why not?
And I feel bad because with all the Gunpla I've built, I've thrown away the extra sprues that I haven't needed. Some things I keep, like, to use for customs, but
Yeah.
I've that's a lot of plastic I've thrown away.
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame, honestly, and
Yeah.
I'm always trying to come up with ways to recycle the parts, whether it's making additional beam sabers or, you
Yeah.
know, sprue goo,
Your little thing where you get the little hole puncher? Yeah, that was
exactly.
a cool trick. Yeah.
Yeah, so and if you guys have any suggestions for what else I can do to recycle these parts, let me know, and I am happy to make a video of me failing at doing it.
No,
Um,
that'd be good.
but yeah, so all of that said, what would you say, Adam, is your number one uh favorite Gunpla line?
You know what? That is a very good question. I don't know if I can answer it. I would say I like real grade because of the intricacy and what the end result is and the feeling of building it. I like the master grades because it's easier. But at the end of the day, the high grades have the most variety in the types of suits I want. And they are generally, because of their size, they're generally look like they're supposed to. They're
Yeah.
not too big where there needs to be some extra added or removed details, and they're not too small where they're just not proportioned. Yeah, even though high grade's limited in a way, I think it's not limited for the builder. So, yeah,
Well
high
said.
grade. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that high grades are my favorite line of Gunpla. And I just wish that we'd see some more reissues in the
Yeah.
well, what used to be the Revive line is now the Gundam Evolution project.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
I guess
Will
that
be interesting to
project's on
see.
hold. I don't know.
And then even lately, it seems like when there's announcements, it's not only is it sold through P Bandai because now it's more accessible to
Right.
others, but we're actually seeing that they are doing re-releases of things that were hard to get before and all different types. Gundam base, master grade, high grade. So
Yeah, there's
that's
definitely
it.
something out there for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, hopefully you
Yeah.
guys have enjoyed this deep dive into Gunpla grades and the various different subcategories and lines.
I sure
Um,
did. I learned a lot from this. It's always something that's surface level that I've never really dived into,
yeah,
you know.
well, and it's a popular question on my Discord. Is everyone's always like, "Hey guys, what kit should I build first?" And everyone's like, "Real grade unicorn," and it's like, no, not exactly. Like, there's a reason it's called entry grade. Is like,
Yeah.
but
But, then sometimes it could depend. It could depend on someone's their creative endeavors.
true.
Because if I remember the first gun kit was the real grade, and that set it off, but what I didn't realize is I built an IBO kit before, and that
Mm.
didn't get me. And then I just knew I bought a robot to build, and I didn't like it.
See, and I think that that's kind of what you know it's important to kind of know where someone's coming from
Yeah.
in order to say, okay, now that I know you're just kind of looking for a robot to build, maybe I'd recommend a 30-minute mission.
Yeah, that's a
Like,
good point. Very good point
because if you don't have any attachment to
to the
a
property.
particular Gundam,
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't necessarily care. But
Yeah, good call on the 30-minute mission. Yeah.
yeah, again, honorable mention. But
Yeah. Yeah, because that's kind of a subline, even though it's not Gundam, but
true.
it's nearly the same thing.
And I mean, they're pretty much compatible with a lot of high grade kits.
Yeah.
You know, part of that universal peg system that they introduced there, um, which is so funny because I think that that kind of mirrors the what is it, the UMP of Xeon, the
Oh, that's right. Where they were
Universal
trying to.
Maintenance Program
Yeah, that's right.
or Project Program.
Yeah, I think I even talked about that in a video once where it was, like, right after the one-year war or
Yep.
something, or right at the end, they started that up to try to. Yeah.
Yeah, so check that video out. Links down in the description to the Gundam Explained channel, and go look at the GM Sniper 2
Oh,
review
yeah?
from this morning if you haven't already.
Yeah, that was
But
fun.
yeah, I think that is going to about do it for us today. Hope you
Cool.
guys have a good rest of your afternoon, good rest of your week. Definitely tune in for the Gundam Explained show tomorrow
Yep.
at 11 Central, 12
That's right.
Eastern. See, I got it this time. Um, Adam, thank you so much for doing this deep dive with
Ah,
me
of course.
and for taking a lot of the talking off of my plate.
Hey, no problem. Anytime you need someone to talk, I just happen to do it, so.
I know who to call. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a good one. Thank you for watching.
Yep.
We'll catch you later.
Yep, see y'all.